This episode is brought to you by our friends at Bloomerang. Looking to deepen donor relationships and maximize fundraising impact? On a journey to align purpose with profit, you need the right tools. Discover Bloomerang, the complete donor, volunteer, and fundraising management solution. Rated as the industry's friendliest, Bloomerang helps nonprofits deliver a better giving experience and create sustainable, thriving organizations. This intuitive platform tracks engagement and provides powerful insights so you can focus on driving your mission forward. Join the thousands of small and mid-sized nonprofits who are already thriving with Bloomerang. Visit bloomerang.co to elevate your fundraising today. Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. Jenn Graham is in the house. Welcome. You're the founder and CEO of Inclusivv. Let's dig in. We know each other. We know each other because you're an Atlantan. It's so nice to see you. First, tell us about your work with Inclusivv, and we're going to dig straight into this series.
Love it. Well, Inclusivv is all about bringing people together for courageous conversations. And we've been doing this now for over a decade. Most of us, especially in the Atlanta area, know us as civic dinners, which we're still legally known as that. But Inclusivv, as you know, COVID canceled dinner. So we had to completely reimagine our service, our offering, and it has evolved so much since then, but our core and our purpose has remained the same, which is to really create spaces where everybody feels like their voice can be heard and where they can co-create a better future together. And that future is inclusive, and it is representative of everyone. So that's what we do. We work with a variety of different organizations, large and small, all over the world. And our new partnership with SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, has really taken us into an exciting direction around civility.
And Jenn, you are somebody, I feel like, so that means I've known you for a decade then, if we do fast math, somewhere around there. You're somebody who's a mover and a shaker and just a natural connector. And that's part of why I wanted to have you on this series, is because if I'm at an event, if I'm out just having these big community conversations, whether it's about equity, whether it's about politics, whether it's leaning into hard conversations in trying times, like you're always at these events, and you're just such a great connector. And that's really what we're going to dig into today, because you bring a lens, an amount of heart, an amount of confidence and courage to these conversations. Like, you're willing to stand up in a room full of hundreds of people and just take the mic and we go. And I've watched you through your career do that again and again and again. And it's why Inclusivv is where it is today, is because you're in the room. I mean, I think we've all made the joke of like, if there's not a seat at the table, bring your own damn seat and you're going to make room at the table. So let's dig into networking. Talk to me about how networking has played a role for bringing this vision to life. Why has it been important?
Wow. Well, I'll first admit that I don't consider myself a networker by any means. I'm probably more of a recovering activist, and I have discovered that the best way to make progress around the issues you care about is to find other people who are also excited and energized by that particular topic or issue. So I tend to gravitate towards events or things that are about bringing more people together around an issue that needs some love or attention or needs to be wrestled with. And that's where you'll likely find me these days, especially with kids. I admit I am not on the networking radar, but I think the power of relationships is what, if anything, Inclusivv and the work that we do has proven that to be the sweet spot, where it's not about transactional, hey, I've got a job for you, or hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? It's really deep, meaningful questions. People will walk away from a conversation not even knowing where this person works or what they do, but they will find that they have a lot of common ground around a particular topic or issue. So that's what excites me, even from the very beginning of my career at Unboundary and being able to be the co-organizer of TEDx Atlanta. We've always been very intentional about building community and allowing ideas to be the connecting force, not necessarily like, for the purpose of selling somebody something. So,
that's so good. Okay,
yeah.
So this was a good reframe. So I call it networking, and you're like shared vision, shared curiosity, shared ideas, bringing people together.
Yes.
And just having conversations, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. To me, it's like,
that's it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in going deep with somebody and having, even if I go to an event and I only talk with 5 people, but I have really deep, meaningful conversations with those people, those are the relationships that can blossom into partnerships, collaborations, and really, any potential support in the future, whether or not that's a friend or potential colleague or client or customer. So, yeah.
Okay, how do you do that? You're at an event and the default is, hey, how's it going? What do you know what I mean? In the chit chat, how do you go deep?
Oh, the first thing I ask is, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Great to meet you. I'm curious what resonated with you today. Like, especially, for example, I was keynoting at the B Lab, the Build Southeast conference, and I missed some of the day portion. So I was genuinely curious, like, what tell me about like what you learned today and what stood out for you. And so just really leaning in and getting curious about them and their takeaways. And it also adding immense value for me so that I could find something to connect on around an issue I care about.
Okay, some really great tips already from scratch. And it's not transactional. It's like, it's not that networking where you're like, ooh, who's in the room that I need to get in front of? That feels ick, right?
Totally.
Okay.
And sometimes it's even the side conversations that can happen outside of the main room. That's sometimes where the best connections are formed. And so when I jet out to try to either find the restroom or get a coffee, that sometimes those random meetups, where you're not intentionally bumping into somebody, but those conversations can be really striking, where someone might introduce you or speak about something that you might have in common, and there's an opportunity to deeply connect on something and make even a plan to reconnect later if you want, to continue the conversation. So I find I love like the side conversations that happen either in the back of the room as someone's up there. Not that I at all wish anybody to speak while someone else is speaking on stage, but if it happens, those little opportunities to rub up against new people from different backgrounds and even just bond over what they're hearing and listening to in that moment, that can be pretty powerful.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Leave room for the small conversations, which means get off your phone in those little moments when you're waiting in line at the coffee, right? Get off your phone and leave room. Yeah.
That is so true. The food line is the perfect opportunity to strike up one of those. What resonated most for you? Boom. And then now you have a lunch mate you can sit next to.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So let's talk about, because in the green room, I was like, all right, let's talk about pitching to investors. Like, you've had your share of pitching. I would imagine you're pretty seasoned. You've raised quite a bit of money at this point. You've had a ton of success with Inclusivv. So what stands out as effective strategies or just learning lessons that you're like, oh, that's where it clicked for me along the way? Walk us through that.
I think, oh my gosh. I mean, I have had the privilege of being a part of so many different accelerators and incubators, and from Goody Nation with Joey Womack to the Center for Civic Innovation with Rohit, and so many other amazing mentors that have helped coach me, from even my first investor, Kim Seals. So all of them have in common, like there's obviously a simple framework. There's an understood expectation that when you're pitching to an investor that you're going to go through those essential 10 slides, right? Those are like, I'm not going to get all of them right, but the first, like the problem, the solution and why it matters. And so all the things, and show the proof of what you've done.
Social proof. Yep.
talk about your successes. And I think that's one, especially as a female founder, I find it sometimes we tend to bat around the bushes and not really say, hey, this is what we've done, and this is the traction, and this is our vision for the future, and here's where I see us going. And yes, this can be a hockey stick company if we find the right partners and we get the right, distribution channels. So I think it's all about these having a vision and understanding the levers that need to be pushed that also will resonate with investors. Also, the importance of storytelling is profound. Like, we've got to have a very succinct way of explaining how you got where you are, why it matters. And if you have a personal lived experience as to why you started your company, start with that. Start with that human connection and why you care about this, because when the going gets tough and you feel like quitting, that is what's going to keep you going. And that's what they need to know. They need to know that you're in it for the heart, and that you're going to be very resourceful with the money that they're giving you. And you believe that this can be a 10x company, right? The scale factor is really important for investors. And honestly, there are a lot of other kinds of funding out there that exists, from revenue-based funding to line of credits. Now that we have been profitable for the last year, that has totally changed the game, so that we're not having to hunt very expensive investor money, but instead go after some other sources.
If you're looking to double your fundraising results this year without doubling your workload, then I have a special invite for you. I'm hosting a brand new free webinar on October 23rd called Double Your Next Fundraiser, Not Your Workload, a bold approach to breaking revenue plateaus. In this free session, I'm sharing the exact strategies that have helped nonprofits like yours raise thousands of extra dollars and attract hundreds of new donors, and build a movement of passionate advocates, all without burning out. Make sure you go to the link in the notes or go to splendidcourses.com/live to save your spot. Okay, you hit on a couple of things. I'm like, we got to drill into it. So one was the scale factor. So something I've noticed, particularly with female founders, female fundraisers, is we shy away from the big, bold vision. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that, that audacious, this is the thing that this is what we're doing. Like, this is happening. And instead it's like the safe, I think I could do that vision. Because the big, bold vision is a vision, and there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee for anyone. But I see a lot of startups with men who are fundraising, who are like making these crazy audacious promises. They have a crazy audacious vision for their company, for their mission, and it is no more likely to happen for them than it is for you. But the pitch sounds different. One is like, hell yeah, I'm coming with them. That's exciting. And the other is like, okay. So what do you say to that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's in our nature as women, right? We are reasonable beings. We know that it's going to take a lot of work, and there are a lot of unknowns. And so we tend to be more practical, and we know, and obviously we're the ones that are also managing the budgets at home. So we kind of have this practicality when it comes to what's possible and perceivable. And it does rub up against the need for investors to be able to see, is this a unicorn opportunity? Because they have to invest in 10 possibly unicorn opportunities in order to get one. And you might have to ask yourself, do I want the unicorn lifestyle of a founder, or am I actually okay with having a more a lifestyle business, which is what they call it, right? Steady growth, strong revenues. That is something to be proud of, to own and know that, like, steady growth over time. You do not have to bet it all on the horse and go all in and hire too fast, in my opinion, to be able to get to that unicorn status. There are other ways of getting there. So I think we internalize, and there's a conflict in and of itself. Do you want to be a unicorn, or do you want to be the steady, lifelong business and be able to maintain more control of your company long term as well? And so there's a give and take. And so I think we are we're rational around that. I think the other thing is there's this it goes back to nature. Bees, I don't know if you know this, but bees, when they are trying to find a new home, they have very specific metrics that they need to find for a new beehive. And when they have these scouts that will go out and they'll try to find one and then they'll come back. And it's the bees that have the most energetic dances about their vision are the ones where all the other bees will follow. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
So, this is nature right now. Right? So if you are excited about your vision, you're going to get other people excited. If you're kind of like, I think so, but I don't know, you're not going to get people to follow you or give you money. So it's just that. And then the final thought is that we are manifestors. Anybody who dares to dream big and believes in something bigger than themselves and more than about making money and has a vision for the impact. So if you speak to, I'm not here to just make you $10 million. I'm here to train 1 million people on how to have civil conversations, and just imagine the impact that will have in our world and our leadership in the political spaces that we're in. And so just speak to the impact that, yes, of course, the dollar signs will follow that. They'll be able to quickly add up. Okay, 1 million people going through facilitation training and classes. That's a lot of money. So, but you're leaning to the impact of the individuals. And so there's a slight shift in how you can have this big grand vision if you anchor it in the impact. And I know women, especially, we tend to want to be the do-gooders. We want to, we're a B Corp. We're certified. We just got recertified too. So, but we want to make sure that we are investing our time and energy and effort into something that is going to have a positive impact on the world. And so talk about that. If the money makes you uncomfortable for now, we can work on that. But talk about the impact and have the dollars back that up.
Okay, love this. And I think the B example is perfect, because what I see is I see a lot of nonprofit fundraisers go, what is the perfect set string of words I'm supposed to say to my potential funder? What should I say to them? What I tell them often is it's actually not the 10 words you say together. It's the energy behind the words. Like, do I believe you? Am I coming with you? Am I excited for this? And I think what keeps people from having that excitement that you just described, or that belief of like, this is what we're creating, and having that huge growth, is that inner monologue. Well, one, you said practical, which yes, there's that. It's like, well, I haven't done it before, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like a failure thing happening of like, what if we fail at this? What if we do get funded for this? And what if it just isn't what I think it is? I think there's a fear of that piece. And how have you talked yourself through that piece?
Oh, you just ask. You ask yourself, well, what's the worst possible scenario here? And I've been there. This last year, this time, I didn't know if Inclusivv would exist in 2024. And because we had the downside of taking on investment, especially if it's a convertible note, is that eventually those notes expire and then you have to renegotiate. And if you're in a worse off position than you were originally, or the economy is in a worse off position, or a combo of the two, they have the power in that renegotiation. And so you can find yourself almost stuck in a place where, okay, either I need to find $1 million magically, or I'm going to have to pay them back, or I'm going to have to figure out a reasonable next step. And they are also still going to want an exit strategy, right? And so I did the hard thing, because I love this company so much. I've poured my heart and soul into it the last decade. And with the help of my husband, we just walked through the door. We just had like, okay, door one is that, we have to close up. We close shop and we figure it all out, and we set it aside. But then what does that mean that I can do? It means I get rid of all the debt. It means I clear up all these things. It means that I can, what would Jenn Graham be able to do now though? I would be able to do what I'm still doing. Right. And I was like, oh wait, I can write a book. I can have more time with my kids. Like, I'm going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. Right. And so when we think about what happens at the end is, of course, there'll be some people who are disappointed, but that's also the game that comes with investors, is that they know not everyone's going to make it. And to them, it's a tax write-off at the end of the day if it doesn't work out. So it's for angels, right? And others. So you have to remind yourself that they're in it for money and you're in it for believing in this bigger vision. And so what allowed the second door was like, okay, now that I've actually gone through that and realized I'm going to be okay and I'll be able to do something else next time with the lessons learned from a startup. Worst case scenario is the second option is like we offer or sell it and we get something for it, but not everything. And that's enough to kind of keep it going a little bit. And we trade off investors, whatever, the different options. It's a little bit better than the worst case still.
Yep.
And then the third option is we absolutely find the lever that is going to really make a difference. And so once you start identifying what is it in the business model that is making me fearful of it failing, and you dare to ask that question, why would this company fail? Then you start to get to some really interesting answers, right? Lack of sales team, lack of that, lack of success on that. Well, how do we solve for a lack of sales team? What's another way of getting through sales, right? And so the fact that we secured this partnership with Sherm eliminated the need for a sales team. Like we are in marketing even. So we're in a much stronger position than we were last year without having to have any more investment or spend any more money. So I think it also allowed me, once I asked the hard question of what would I do if I was not the founder and CEO of Inclusivv? And I discovered it was the exact same thing I'm doing today. I'd bring people together around the issues I care about. I would facilitate conversations. I would do this. And so I was like, oh, fuck. Sorry. Why not just double down on what you're doing now, Jenn? Like give it all you got and keep going. And so that's what I recommitted to it. Once I faced the fear, I was like, I got this. And boom, immediately after, it's like that shift in mindset, shifting from a place of scarcity where it's like, oh my God, I'm terrified of losing this. Then you start to cut, and you think so small, and you think about self-preservation. But your company cannot live in that mindset very long if you're just in self-preservation. Instead, you have to just like get out of that bubble, find a way to like punch through it and say, okay, if we do this one thing, this would make the difference for us. This is the vision that I have, and we're going to start marching towards that. And I'm going to recommit and find that one thing that brings it back. And that shift in abundance, once I was able to get a line of credit, suddenly the financial stress was gone. That was number one. You got to be financially secure in order to be able to think abundantly, right? Then you've got to start some small wins, get some new sales in the door, boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden you've got momentum. Now this partnership is starting to form and you've got something positive to talk about with investors, current and future. And then all of a sudden it's happening and you're in the whirlwind of it all and you're like, holy shit, it's coming to life and fucking manifested that.
Yes. If you're not watching the video, she's holding up a wand, y'all. I love this idea of asking the hard question, because I think a lot of times that inner monologue, like, what if I fail? What if I fail? I don't want to fail. We actually don't investigate it. We just loop on that. And what you just walked us through was like, go to the worst case scenario. And then you realize like, I got me, I got my values, I have myself, I would still be doing it in a slightly different way. And then you start to like release that loop.
Yes.
So, and it's like, oh, now I can just get to work. And here we are. And it's almost like without that point, you wouldn't be where you are today. And this was also a good, that was a good kind of walkthrough of the big questions you ask in Inclusivv. You're so great at that, of these like deep questions where you're like, ooh, that was deep. So as you have gone through this process, talking with funders, getting lines of credit, things like that, certainly you've heard your share of no's before. How have you handled rejection? How have you gone through that process when maybe you were like, no, this was the pitch, Christina. This was the deck. I knew it was going to be I had a warm intro. This was going to be it. How do you keep going when you're like, well, crap, that was
Yeah. Wow. Well, first of all, I feel every yes that I get, I feel that much more appreciative for the no's that I had before, because I learned from the no's what I needed to share or do differently or say or work on in order to get a yes. And so I think I felt in the beginning, especially, there was a sense of, I don't know what I'm doing. There was this sense, there was a little bit of that imposter syndrome of, oh my gosh, investors, and like, I don't even know how this game works. They're going to beat me at this before I even get started. And so just education around what it means, what's a convertible note versus equity round, and educating myself on that, going through all the seminars. And then and also understanding what it is that is required in a pitch. And once you get a no, don't take the, oh, it's just not a good time right now or a good fit. Ask for more. So we say in all of our teachings, when there's a lack of clarity, ask clarifying questions. Say, would you mind spending just 15 minutes with me to walk me through what exactly is the main points of why you're not investing? Totally understand. Would love to, but I would love to know so that I can work on those and be able to come back to you or others in the future and be able to get a yes. I just want to know. And if they're willing, if they are a good investor and they are intentionally trying to help support the growth of future companies, then they will take that time. If they're an asshole, then they won't. So they'll just disappear and ghost you because they feel awkward with confrontation, right? So I think if you have the courage to ask and say, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing it. I know I am always wanting to learn more about what exactly I can improve so that I can be in a better position with the next investor opportunity. So point blank, you got nothing to lose. It's kind of like, I learned this skill knocking on doors as a kid, selling, God knows what, wrapping paper, pumpkins, whatever we had to sell in middle school.
I totally sold the wrapping paper. Yes.
Girl Scout cookies, not everybody wants them. And it's okay. And I teach my son. My son has a little lemonade stand, full plug, on Saturdays. So in our house. And he'll sell cookies and lemonade and rainbows. And he learned that he needs to have Venmo because that's a necessary thing. But he'll say cookies, rainbow. He'll put on his best show. It'll be so cute. And some dudes will walk straight by and not even engage. And he looks at me like, and I'm like, hey, not everybody is a fit, and that's okay. And that is something so important to learn early on, that it is not a take on your worth, your personal worth. You have to kind of separate the personal side of this from the business and look at it like a badass business partner and not your baby. So I think look at the business. And that was like a lot of very expensive leadership coaching that I learned that. So I'm giving it away, but you've got to separate your personal identity from the company and know that you are okay as your own individual self. And you are providing this company with an immense, invaluable, just asset. And so without you, yes, the company might not be worth anything. So remember that, but that doesn't mean that you are worth less when people don't want to invest, right?
That's right.
It's like that balance. So just know that you are a big piece of this company, but that is not your identity as a whole. And that for me, that separation from, rather than thinking of it as my baby, to thinking of it as a badass business partner that we're co-creating together, that just mentally helped me separate.
I love that. That gives it some like sturdiness and some grit for when you are in those situations where the funder is like, I don't know, let me think on it. And you're like, all right, bye. So you're like, hang on, let me not run out of the room. Or you get the stern person who's like, I know. So when you think of it that way, I think that's a really great reframe.
And appreciate those that take the time to give you that feedback, because they are going to help you be better next time. So thank them, be gracious, and you never know, they might come back around when later time. So always, every connection you make is an opportunity in the future, if it's not a fit now. And they always say, build trust before you need it, and build those relationships with investors before you go ask them. And you're more likely to get either strong feedback as to why they can't invest in you now, or, support even. They might offer help if they see real potential.
Or they might know somebody who's like, you know what, I'm not the person, but you need to know this person. So don't run out of the room. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to talk about this idea of community building, but let's weave it into this idea that we're talking a little bit in the green room about, which is the topic of civility. So it can be maybe an easier lift to think about community building, creating relationships with people who are like you, right? People who just are like you, right? So how have you, you've been a brilliant community builder, both in person and online. How have you done that? Or what are some strategies you can share with us that are effective, where you're not just like getting more people who are just, I'm thinking about people who are like, everybody's in agreement, when like, in teenagers, we're all dressing this way. Today, this is our style. So it's like you're actually developing a community of diverse voices. You're developing a community where, of course, there is some alignment too. So tell us what comes up when I say that.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly speak to the work that Inclusivv is doing around that. I think around civility, the first thing that you have to do is make sure that everybody feels welcome. And so in the framing of whatever event you're putting on, we have words matter a lot. And the framing of even the title, the subtitle will cue people whether they will be welcome there or not. And so being intentional, and just even like as much as I obviously Inclusivv is named that on purpose because we are all about building a more inclusive world. And so it pains me when people think that that's like a liberal term now, or like I'm clearly on the Democratic team because I have because I am inclusive. And I feel like it's instead, it's about making sure that every voice feels heard. And yes, we do really want, and but it doesn't mean that all of our topics are on DE&I or so forth. So it's like really being intentional about how you frame it and finding the topics and themes where people can see themselves in, like belonging, even psychological safety, trust, versus things that might already have a lean towards one perspective or not, right? Accidentally even. And so those are some of the tips. So how you frame it matters. The second is, modeling curiosity when a different idea is presenting itself. And say, instead of being like, nope, that's not what we're about here, or discounting or defending or deflecting or distancing, instead do everything you can. First, control it, do what you need to do, take a breath, and then say, can you tell me more about that? And I love that phrase. Can you tell me more? Lean in and be curious. If there's one thing that we can do that would change the world, it's just to get curious about why people think the way they do, where it came from, what it is, without taking anything personally right away. Because we have no idea this person's experience or relation to the issue or topic. And this goes for the most divisive topics of our time, whether it's around guns or abortion or healthcare, education, all the things now feel like a hot topic.
Oh my God, you're naming them all, and I can feel myself get fiery.
I know, right? And I think we have to be brave enough to actually engage in a conversation and be willing to actually try on the other perspective. And I think the last thing I'll share is when you're being curious, it does not mean that you are agreeing with the person, right? We have to separate understanding from agreement. And so to be curious about someone does not mean that I am agreeing with you. I'm just wanting to learn more about you and your perspective and how you got there. So if we can do that, it's kind of like separating the personal from the business, right? It's like, okay, I can go there and I'm safe. I'm still safe because I still know who I am and I know my values, and I want to learn more about yours so that I can just better understand how we got here and where we can go together. Because once you stop making it about character assassinations and so forth, then you understand the actual underlying needs. And sometimes I think gun control in some ways, or example, even who knows about, there are a lot of common shared values that if we were able to get down underneath the emotions, we were able to understand the needs that we have for safety, for security, for well-being and freedom, then we can actually agree on those common universal values. And then we can start thinking of, okay, how do we solve for this then? Here's my concern. Your concern is this. Hey, here's how we can solve this together. What about this? And so that's the perfect thing, is like, the power of what if.
What if? Yeah. What you're walking us through reminded me a bit about how organizations will often come to me and they're like, we don't really have many young donors or volunteers or really anyone on, followers, anything. Not a lot of engagement with millennials and Gen Z primarily. But what you just said is like, I think the beginning of those conversations of how they want to think about, because you're talking about change making, which is like,
Totally.
hey, I care about this, whether it's the environment, whether whatever this cause, but maybe the way you're saying it isn't really piquing my interest or isn't getting me out advocating. I'm not really, and asking these questions and finding that alignment, because it is there. And I agree, it's there for a lot of our issues, but we have to be willing to like listen and not say, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong.
You nailed it. That's exactly it. That is exactly it. And we have this phrase that we love when we are approaching from a true kind of psychologically safe space. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to get it right. And if we can embody that, then that leans into curiosity, like to say, I have a perspective, but I'm not like clenching to it. So I can be malleable and I want to understand. And I think like, here's my perspective. What is yours? And let's see if we can find a better path for both of us, because there is always option C. We just don't go there. We don't talk about it. And so, to find, and I'm a big believer in just like calling out the tension. That's one of the things that I love about our structured dialogue. For example, I'm holding up an example conversation on allyship, and we have like 3 big intros and then 3 big questions. And the first one's all about personal storytelling. And then the second one is about the shared reality and being able to examine a topic objectively and look at it and start to peel back so that we can say, oh, wow, wait, okay, all of these different things impact this. And then the final one is like, what if, what might be some other ideas or solutions that we can commit to that might change it? So it's truly like a transformative conversation, but in a collaborative environment that allows people to really expand their minds and even co-create a better future.
What you're saying reminds me a bit of like this idea of like not being so formal, breaking the fourth wall, just telling the truth, right? I've coached some clients before where I'm like, you can just tell your prospect, or if you're in front of a stage, you can just say, hey, I'm feeling nervous. Like you can just say that, or you can say, I'm about to ask you for a lot of money. You ready? Like you can just say it in your voice. Because if I pick up a microphone and I am really nervous and I say I'm nervous, something happens like chemically where it releases that tension.
And that is when you name an emotion, it loses its power over you.
Yes.
So when you can identify it and name it and know that it's there, but it's not you, it's like, I'm experiencing anxiety right now. It's not like I am anxious. I'm experiencing this. And it just, like you said, acknowledging it and even thanking it for alerting you to something that you care about and you want to perform well, you want to present yourself well, it automatically communicates vulnerability, which is like catnip for an audience. Any audience that sits there and sees you being vulnerable, they're like, they just fell more in love with you and they want you to succeed. So I think the power of vulnerability, is especially feminine founders, us women, we can use that as a tool for connection. And we don't have to be the one that is, the one just like, this, and super confident and maybe sometimes a little overconfident, but we can, I like to say like, and we try to exude this mentality with our facilitators, is this relaxed confidence. And so this sense of like, I understand this but I'm also like, I'm here to roll with the punches, and I'm not, I may not know everything, but I'm here to figure it out and work it out together. And that I feel is so powerful. So one last piece of advice that I've received, especially when you're thinking about partnering with investors and saying, is paint the vision of what you're doing and how it aligns to their goals. And then say, imagine what we could do together. So let them be part of the magic making and say, and have them be part of that story. and inviting them into it, and not just to say, you're going to give me money so I can do all these great things. No, it's like, you're bringing this, this, and this, and I'm bringing this. Look what we can do together.
Yes. So good. Oh, so good. This has been one of my favorite conversations. Thank you for sharing all of this with us. We ask everybody on the podcast to share a mantra, a motto, an affirmation, something that is a go-to that kind of keeps you going. A thought you like to think on purpose. Would you share one with the listeners?
Ooh, can I read this abundance prayer that has been a key piece of my life the last 3 years and has really.
It must be if it's like right in front of your desk.
It is right in front of me, and it's handwritten, and it's not mine. It's from a book called "It's Not Your Money," which everybody here should read. Forgive me, I can't remember the author's name, but "It's Not Your Money," and it really shifted the story I had in my head about money and even abundance. And so I'll read it out loud, and okay. It says, "Divine Beloved, allow me to give with complete ease and abundance, knowing that you are the unlimited source of all. Let me be an easy, open conduit for your prosperity. Let me trust that all my own needs are always met in amazing ways, and that it is safe to give freely as my heart guides. And equally, let me feel wildly open to receiving. May I know my own value, beauty, worthiness without question. Let me allow others the supreme pleasure of giving to me. May I feel worthy to receive in every possible way. Change me into one who can fully love, forgive, and accept myself, so I may carry your light without restriction. Let everything that needs to go, go, and everything that needs to come, come. I am utterly your own. I am you. You are me. We are one. All is well."
Oh.
I mean, I still get chills when I read it out loud.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there was this one line where I actually used to choke up because I didn't believe it. And I like this one, I had to work on this a lot, but I feel worthy to receive in every possible way. Change me into one who can fully love, forgive, and accept myself, so that I may carry your light without restriction.
Woo, beautiful.
That's what it's all about, right? Sometimes we just get in our own way. We get in our own way all the time. And and we are here on this earth to do amazing things. And if we just allow that to happen, and you'll be so surprised.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Where can we sign up for an inclusive conversation? Where can we find you? Tell us all the places.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we have lots of opportunities to get involved. We have if you're interested in learning more about particularly inclusive leadership, we have an amazing monthly inclusive leadership journey that is going to continue throughout 2025. It's about a 90-minute session. You get a little bit of training followed by peer-to-peer dialogue. Really powerful. And that's you can sign up on our website under membership. Also, we have our new civility series that is awesome. It starts next week. And so, but it's going to be ongoing, similar to the journey. It's a 4-month commitment. And this is really kind of giving you the skills and tools for deep, meaningful conversations in your workplace, in your home. I gave one live yesterday, and someone was like, "This is great marriage counseling advice too." So we go really deep into emotional intelligence and needs, and being able to talk about that, but also psychological safety, and all of these key components of just interpersonal skills that haven't been taught, right, since maybe kindergarten. So I think it's a good refresher for a lot of this. And so the civility series is also findable. And then, of course, we can host private sessions within organizations, large and small. So come find me. Follow me on LinkedIn. We're always posting the latest and greatest on there. Inclusivv is on LinkedIn and Instagram at inclusivv.com.
We'll link to everything. We'll link to the book too.
Oh, yeah.
We desire as people to be connected. And I just want to offer so many organizations, so many leaders and founders are doing this just like we are today in our own offices, siloed alone. And these moments, I'm a member of the series, of being able to come to the series, whether it's once a month or especially the civility as we move into the holidays. I'm like, what if we didn't avoid conversations? What if we just listened?
Oh.
And what if that, instead of like avoiding your uncle and, those conversations with him about whatever the hot button political issue is, I'm like, what if we actually just didn't have the charge on it? I wonder what that could do.
Well,
like, what if we love him?
Yes.
And exactly. And then like, don't go into that conversation with this. Go in the conversation with a toolkit, which is that series of like, this is how to have those so you don't, yeah. Thank you.
I have one of those uncles, and it's still hard. But you get to
everybody
practice.
does.
You get to, but you get to practice, and then you fall in love, and then you realize, oh wow, I was so worried and fearful about the reason what keeps us from it is because we don't want to lose those relationships.
No.
Our desire for connection is so powerful, and one of the biggest universal needs that we all have, and so but we also want meaning, and we want to feel like our voices matter. So there's a way to do both with kindness and dignity and respect. And so that's our mission. We're trying to just share the love, share the tools, the practical tools and skills that you can have to basically engage with anyone, anywhere. So.
There it is. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Hey, high achiever, I know your sights are set on ambitious, world-changing goals. In the Purpose and Profit Club group coaching program, you can get the support, motivation, and strategy to accelerate your impact. I like to say it's where the inner work meets big impact and big funding. Go to splendidcourses.com/waitlist, and you will be first to be notified when we open up doors, and you'll get special bonuses when you join our waitlist. See you inside.